Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. There was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. And he told them, "Draw some out now and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then, when people have drunk freely, an inferior one. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this as the beginning of his signs at Cana in Galilee, and so revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe in him. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Woman, how does your concern affect me? Woman, how does your concern affect me? Now, to the men and children in this congregation, I suggest that you never say that to the lady of the house. Woman, how does your concern affect me? Even though Jesus says it, don't say it to her, because you will soon find out how this affects you. It's a rather odd thing for Jesus to say to Mary, even in the culture, even in the language. Bible scholars sort of wonder about why he's saying this. In the Greek, the words are "ti emoi kai soi gunai." Literally, it means, "What to me and you, woman?" What to me and you, woman? Jesus will save that Greek word gunai, well, it's translated in the Greek, he said it in Aramaic, to a number of women in the Gospel, including Mary Magdalene after the resurrection when he meets her at the tomb. Ti emoi kai soi gunai. What is this to me and you, woman? Jesus then says, "My hour has not yet come." The context of this, we need to go back in time to when Jesus was 12. As you remember from the account in the Gospel, Mary and Joseph and Jesus went to Jerusalem for the festivals. While they were there, they celebrated the festivals, and then it was time to go home. So, the plan was that Mary and Joseph would return in the caravan. In those days, you never traveled by yourself. It was too dangerous, so people typically traveled in caravans to be protected. In the caravan, there was an area for the men. Another part of the caravan was area for the women. And the children typically stayed with the women. And then the men were up by themselves. But being 12, Jesus was right in the middle of that time. He had 1 foot in childhood and 1 foot in adulthood at the big age of 12. And so it's no wonder there was confusion after they get going and go out a ways, Mary and Joseph connect with each other about, where's Jesus? Don't know. Well, as we hear in the Gospel, Mary and Joseph immediately head back to Jerusalem. Jerusalem would have been very crowded with pilgrims. It also would be a very dangerous place for a child by him or herself. And so they searched for Jesus for 3 days. If you've ever lost your children, lost a child just for a half hour in the store maybe, you can feel the fear that grips your heart. Where are they? Where did they go? Did someone take them? Why can't I find my child? I have a friend in those days when he had little children who would attach tall flags to each one of them. And although he couldn't see them above the counters because they were so short, he could see the flags moving about in the store, so he knew where they were. But that's a terrible fear of parents, is to lose their child. And so Mary and Joseph end up in the temple. Maybe they went there to pray. And guess who they find there? There's Jesus. He's sitting off with the teachers from the temple school, talking with them. He's asking them questions. He's talking to them. Being very impressive. Sure, Jesus was a very bright young man, and they were impressed with him. Well, Mary and Joseph weren't impressed. And so Mary says to Jesus, and in the gospel you can hear the intenseness in her voice, "Why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you for 3 days." Well, Jesus has come back to that. He said, "Well, didn't you know that I've got to be about my Father's business? Why wouldn't you know that?" Well, I'm sure Mary and Joseph said what we would say of, "Get in the car, you're going home." And so they ordered Jesus to come with them. What Jesus was wanting to do was very appropriate for his age. St. Paul would have did a very similar thing when he was about that age. He attended the temple school. He had a very famous rabbi, Gamaliel, as a teacher. So all Jesus wanted to do is go to school. Mary and Joseph say, "No, you come with us." And so he does. Back to the little town of Nazareth, a nowhere place. What good could ever come out of Nazareth? This town of probably about 400 people. Most of them, if not all of them, were relatives. It was like a family compound. Everyone were cousins and aunts and uncles, and they're all family. They're all related. And so Jesus obeys and goes back with Mary and Joseph to Nazareth. Then the scene we have in the gospel today, where Mary has come to the wedding feast, scholars say she's probably a relative of these people getting married, because a non-relative would never have done what she did, and that's interfere with what was going on, or intervene. When they run out of wine, she takes on that issue as probably an aunt, and she's going to solve it. And so she goes to Jesus. Well, he's there with his disciples. They were invited to the wedding too. She says, "They have no wine." Well, that's either poor planning, or maybe Jesus' disciples drank a little bit too much wine. And so they drank up what was there for the wedding guests. They have no wine. Then Jesus says to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour has not yet come." This is 18 years after Jerusalem. 18 years that Jesus has been in Nazareth waiting for his hour to come. It's a long time, especially considering that the lifespan for a man in those days was about 40 years. 18 years. And he's saying, yeah, but my hour hasn't come yet. Well, Mary she either ignores him or just spins off of that and starts talking to the servers. She goes up to the servers and says to them, do whatever he tells you. These are very important words. The Gospel's written in Greek. Mary very likely spoke in Aramaic, just like Jesus. So the words she used were Aramaic. Do whatever he tells you. But when the evangelist wrote the Gospel, he translates the Aramaic into Greek. The sentence in Greek is ho tai on lege umin petsate. Whatever he says to you, do, is the literal translation of the Greek. Oti on lege umin petsate. These are important words because these are the last words recorded of Mary in the Gospel. She will never have another line again. So these are very important words. Do whatever he tells you. And so as we hear in the Gospel, they'll put water in the jars, and Jesus has them take it to the head waiter, and it's wonderful wine, better than what they had been drinking. And so the head waiter is very confused by that and wants to know why the bridegroom kept this wonderful wine till the end. Often we concentrate on this story in Cana on the wedding. If you visit Cana, it's a wonderful little town. It's about 4 miles northeast of Nazareth. Easy walking distance in those days. And in Cana, there's a church. And it's a church traditionally believed to be built over the place of where the wedding took place. And it's a tradition there that when the pilgrims come, the husband and wives in the pilgrim group take turns going up in front of the altar and exchanging vows, or they do it as a group. And then there's a very friendly sister back in the sacristy who fills out a form for you and gives you a certificate with your name on it that verifies that you exchange vows at Cana. And so we concentrate on that as a wedding issue, but that's not the focus of the gospel. The fact that there's a wedding at Cana is just context. That's not the point of it. The point of the account is this relationship between Jesus and Mary, because it is about to radically change, because Jesus will be leaving home and he won't be back. And so it's very important to think about what that relationship is between the two of them after all of these years. But then that final command that Mary gives to the servants applies to all of us as well. Do whatever he tells you. And those words echo through the centuries as their last words in the gospel. We have completed the Christmas season, entered the new year, and we are now entering ordinary time. It's a time when the priest wears green, ordinary time. And we will be in this time until the beginning of Lent, the first week of March. It's ordinary, not because it's plain or boring. It's ordinary because the Sundays have no names. There's no names of these Sundays. It's not Easter, Pentecost, Christmas. But they are Sundays. We're just counting them. We're counting them. This is the second Sunday of ordinary time. And so second is an ordinary number. Prime would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Ordinal number would be first, second, third, fourth. So this is ordinary time because it's a time in which we're counting the Sundays with ordinal numbers. And during this time, we're given an opportunity to reflect upon our journey with the Lord, how we are recalling the events of Christmas and Advent and the beginning of the new year. and what we can do to be better, to be more faithful, to be more effective in our lives as being Christians, as followers of Jesus. And so this command of Mary serves as a beacon for this ordinary time. What are we supposed to do? What are we doing during this time between now and Lent? The command of Mary is, do whatever he tells you.